Hello and welcome to another BB22 Racing video, this time coming from round one of the St George Sprint Series. We are on our trusty club spec Suzuki SV650 Super Twin, which has a lot of modifications to it compared to the ASPK bikes that we've been riding, and a lot of mods compared to the last time we rode it in the night series earlier this year. We qualified fourth on the Formula St George grid. We have Levi Russo on a little Honda NSF250 Moto 3 in pole position there, and then Josh Newman on a Kawasaki 400, which is nice and quick. And then we also have Cam Swain in third place, just out of shot, and Jai Russo in fifth next to us. This is the first time launching on the latest engine that we've got in the bike, so it was kind of a little bit of learning for me. Josh got an absolutely cracking start. I think we probably shared the whole shot there as I was right next to him on the apex, but it was pretty awesome. It's been a while since I've ridden an SV in anger properly around the City Motorsport Park, especially with all of the Super Twin bits on it. Last time I was here on an SV, I actually crashed in the ASPK test, doing some damage to one of the bikes and some damage to myself. Thankfully, the high quality suit that was the Rawhide Co suit gave me some good protection for that. You can see here into turn 5, nice and early, Josh has come past me. This engine that I'm getting used to is quite different to some of our other specs of Super Twin motor. So I'm just kind of getting used to it, getting used to the bike again as well. And you can see, and I'll put my hand up, I actually make a very large amount of mistakes this weekend when getting back used to this package. In the meantime as well, since the last time I rode an SV down at Phillip Island for ASPK, I've also been riding the awesome C&M Motorcycles FZR1000, which is a completely different animal to the Suzuki. So trying to get back used to the SV took me more time than I would like, but having not tested this bike and this engine and some of the other parts on the bike before coming out and racing, it's only natural that, you know, we kind of make a few mistakes here and there as we're learning. You can see that Kawasaki 400 was not shy of top speed. Considering this motor that we have is 5 to 10 k's an hour faster than a previous club motor, and is 20 k's an hour faster than the ASPK motors. It goes to show just how peppy that 400 was, especially with Josh being able to nail it off that last corner as he did. Had pretty good weather. The track was in pretty good condition this early on the Saturday morning. The forecast weather was for rain, but luckily we got away with pretty good conditions all day. Oh, there you go, a nice move there from Levi on his little 250. I've had some good battles with Levi in the past, and this is no exception. He got me mid-corner through turn 5, and I was able to get him. Just had a bit of torque in the engine over the hill, and I was able to outbrake him into turn 6. However, I made a bit of a mistake coming into turn 9 here, and that means he's right up my clucker as we're heading towards the last section before the main straight. They have resurfaced a couple of portions of the track since the last time we put a video out, and it is quite good. This final section here, which is actually one of my favourite parts of the course, has been resurfaced. It's nice and grippy. There's no more of the big bumps, so I can actually really throw the bike around through turn 10 and 11 as I enjoy to do so. On the straight here coming into turn 1, not sure if it can be picked up on the audio, but I could just hear Levi right behind me on his noisy Moto 3 bike. And I've pushed hard into this corner, and the cheeky bugger rides around the outside of me, which is very impressive. Like that, the confidence that Levi has to be able to do that with his package on his bike is very high for him to be able to do that. And a lot of people might think, oh, you get cranky at that sort of move or whatnot, but I was actually laughing in my helmet because I was just thinking, you cheeky little pulling a maneuver like that. And then as soon as he's past me, I'm trying quite hard. We had some other parts in the bike for testing. We had a bit of an issue with a component in the back of the bike. Unsure as to why. There shouldn't have been an issue, but it was causing, like, the adjustments made kind of, it didn't result in what we expected the bike, or how we expected the bike to behave. So it was actually suffering a bit with some handling issues. The bike just wouldn't finish the corner off. And you can see that where I'm running wide in a number of places compared to where I normally would. We're still running pretty decent times at this point. I think we're doing 43s to start the day, which, I mean, isn't where we should be. We should be in the 41s on our bike. It was actually interesting to see that Levi has actually really come along, and especially in this weekend, we were kind of close to him in the first couple of races, as you'll see, and then in the end, they make adjustments to the bike. He learnt and just started to absolutely disappear. There you can see what I was talking about with the issue of the bike. As soon as I get on the throttle, the bike just dips down in the back and won't finish the corner, whereas the little Moto 3 with Levi on it, you can see just as soon as he gets into the gas, the bike just rails around the corner. And I mean the lightweight flickability of it, which you can see when we get down to the transition between 4 and 5, the lightweight nature of the bike and the rider as well means that the handling of that thing is absolutely weaponized. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not as fit as I should be anymore. I've been not getting a lot of practice in, courtesy of trying to work to earn the money for the expense of the ASBK class, as well as buying bikes and building bikes. It's been pretty stressful. I haven't been able to do as much training, haven't made as much time for training as I probably should have, and I have very limited track riding time this year compared to normal. Like, I would be doing a lot of Sydney West Riders days, I'd be doing a lot of racing and practice days, track nights. I just haven't been doing that this year, so I'll put my hand up and say, yep, I should have made more of an effort to make sure that I was fit enough. However, sometimes, no matter how fit you are, once you get on a bike, it's a completely different story. Like, coming into here, normally I wouldn't have an issue, but this weekend the core was getting a bit of a workout, but interestingly enough, my legs were getting quite fatigued, which is not a problem I've ever really had before. Again, though, I haven't been doing as much riding, so that's probably part of the problem. Towards the end of this race, as you can see here, we just skipped a bunch of the race because Levi started to really put the hammer down on consistent laps, and I started to struggle with fatigue and with the bike. And you see there, I made a big mistake coming into 9. I actually folded the front and nearly crashed. Cam Swain was able to get past me there on the exit of 9. However, obviously, even though we ran wide, the torque of the SV was able to get us up onto the back of Swain there and into turn 10 and 11. Like I said earlier, 10, 11 is probably the best part of the track for me. I was able to get up under him. So that's pretty much how the race went. I was making a couple of little mistakes in combination with Levi just absolutely nailing out fast laps. He put a gap into us. Once I kind of focused on myself and my riding, was able to come away with a second place. Coming now into race 2, I knew my work was cut out for me. We made a few adjustments to try to give me a bit more confidence and overcome the issue that we were having with the rear of the bike. Coming into turn 2 here, I knew that the other riders, they would be swarming all over the back of me. So I know a lot of people will say, we're bullying the kids and the young blokes because we're out here on a big bike. The bike that we're on weighs more than them and their bikes combined. And then you put my large body onto the top of it. I have to use what I can to my advantage. So you'll see in a couple of places I'll not be parking at mid-corner, but I'll be slowing the process a little bit and then just using the motor to pick up off the corner and accelerate away. That being said, they are young riders. They are national and international level riders, and they learn quickly. So I had to constantly be changing my riding in order to make sure I stayed in front of them or stayed with them out on track. Again, you can see there, going into turn 9, I had a back shifting issue, didn't shift all the way down to second, it was stuck in third, meaning I was making a mistake, and I have another shifting issue here. It didn't back shift, and then once I actually managed to get it back into third from fourth, that change was enough to unsettle the bike and actually wash the front out. And thankfully I didn't crash. I don't know how I didn't crash. It doesn't look as aggressive on the telly as it did on the bike. And then Levi comes past me in an attempt to try to keep up with him out of turn 6 just then. Again, you see only a small bobble on the recording, but that was a bike kicking me out of the seat moment as I got into the throttle a little bit too hard. I knew once Levi was past me, it was very unlikely that I was going to be able to keep up with him. This is actually one of my fastest races of the weekend when it comes to lap times, getting down to 42.4. This is actually one of Levi's fastest races of the weekend, lap times wise, and he got down to a 41 low, nearly the same pace as what I was at last year on the SV Super Twin. So we know there's plenty of time in me, and there should be plenty of time in the bike once we've got it all adjusted. However, yeah, just this weekend, in the conditions, with all the stuff that we were doing with our bike, Levi had us absolutely covered. He's absolutely flying. He's very much come up with his riding. They've been throwing in a lot of practice. That bike seems to be a bit spicier than it has been in the past, in combination with how much of a better and developed rider he's become. You know, he was just in a class of his own. Once he got free of being stuck behind me, he disappears. You can kind of hear on entry into turn 6 there, the bike makes like a woo woo kind of noise. That's as we hit the bump. The SV gets pretty negatively affected by the bump on entry under brakes, whereas that little Moto 3 bike just sails across and it doesn't seem to be affected by it at all, which is a little bit frustrating as a rider behind, not being able to ride the same. But again, we're talking, that's a Grand Prix chassis with a very highly capable rider aboard, and we're on a Lamb's commuter bike that we've turned into a race bike. So there's a few things that we can do to the bike to hopefully improve it, and we're going to be working with our suspension partner Rob from Wellsprung Motorcycle Suspension to try to improve the bike chassis wise for the club spec Super Twin, as well as some of the engine tuning issues that we were having across the weekend. We'll be working with Senior Motorcycles to make sure that we get that bike running nicely. It was actually very nice to be back on an SV that has the use of a slipper clutch. We've got the Yoyodyne slipper clutch in our club bike. The rules for ASPK don't allow that modification, and so it actually took a little bit of getting used to, as you can see there, into turn 2. Coming off of turn 3, Levi's taken a big look back just to see where we were. You can see just how much time he lost by lifting his head, rolling off the throttle a little and looking back. That actually brought him back to me to the point that was capable of touching him going into turn 4. Going into turn 6 and on exit, the bike sounds a bit doughy. At the same corner speed as normal, it just doesn't seem to have the same pickup at that point at the revs. Unsure why that is, so with some dyno time we'll hopefully figure that out. Same thing again, entering turn 9, down into that hairpin, the bike's moving around a lot. The bike was more or less at the same kind of adjustment as we normally would have it, but like we said, updated parts and a slightly different engine kind of leads to a different result. can see that Moto3 bike now is not shy of top end. In the past, normally we would pretty well happily catch and pass even most of the NSFs down the main straight there. Our bike has a lot more top speed than it used to have, and that leads me to believe that that bike's got a lot more top speed than it used to have. In combination, it's not just a bike upgrade for them, but you know, Levi's gotten a lot better at riding, so he's making up a bit of difference there as well. But it's definitely easy to see that everyone's upgrading and becoming better around us in this class. And rather frustratingly for me, this is kind of how the majority of this race went. It was probably my best race of the weekend, despite the issues. When it comes to performance, I mean, it was my fastest lap time, like I said earlier. And I just kind of felt like I was performing the best when it comes to trying to keep up with Levi. But again, you see, I'm making little mistakes. I'm pushing pretty hard to try to keep up. Again, despite this being only club racing in some people's eyes, you still want to win. We still want to be competitive against the up-and-coming talent, which a lot of people say what they say about me, but I really enjoy racing with the younger riders. It keeps me on my toes. It teaches me things about myself and my riding, and hopefully imparts a little bit of knowledge onto them when it comes to racecraft and how to ride around an adversity or an adversary which has a different way of getting around the racetrack to them. And at the end of the day, we're out here to have fun, and I was having quite a lot of fun. It was a little bit frustrating towards the end of this race. Again, we were just yo-yoing with Levi like this. And this section, I felt like I was getting pretty close to him. However, the last 2 laps, there was a crasher, and thankfully they were okay, but it just meant that there was yellow flags through there. With the yellow flags through there, I wasn't able to make passes or push as hard as, I wasn't willing to push as hard as normal, because if you make a mistake under yellow flags and it results in you crashing, there's a pretty heavy penalty, both when it comes to your results, but also if you crash and there's another bike on the ground, which is what the yellow flag's there for, it could result in pretty serious injury. So we try to avoid that. You can see here coming into the final laps, we started catching some back markers. Now this is a young rider. He's only just started track riding. He was actually doing pretty well, all things considered, but he came up and spoke to me afterwards. He'd made a mistake into turn 2, so that's why we were able to lap him. He'd run wide and then re-entered track. So luckily for him, he didn't have a crash. He just had some dirt and dust in his belly pan. So we are crossing the line into the last lap board there up on the tower. We're able to keep, again, able to keep up with Levi in this one, but just frustratingly not able to perform that little bit extra that's needed in order to make passes or even just put ourselves in a position to pass. Again, there you can see those yellow flags and the green flag on the exit. You can see me there running up onto the concrete. Can't say I'm not trying. I was doing everything I could to try to close the gap, because I knew if I kind of get close to him coming onto the back straight, maybe with a little bit of slipstreaming along the back straight, getting close into the final corner set, and then if I was close enough to him down the main straight to the line, I might have been able to catch him, but just making mistakes on corner entry everywhere. Like you see, I ran a bit wide on entry, meaning wide on exit, and yeah, just losing out too much. Certainly the better rider of the day him and his machine were working together quite well. There we are, that's race 2 run and done. Another second place for us. So pretty happy with the result, all things considered. But like we mentioned a couple of times, still a little bit frustrated because we know we should be performing a bit better. But for a litany of reasons, we are not. You can see there, Levi's a really good sport. Waiting for us there to give us a good old handshake. Very good sportsmanship from such a young rider. All right, this is the final race of the day, which is actually supposed to be our first race of Sunday, but we managed to get it in on the Saturday afternoon. Got another cracking start. The new motor is really good off the line. I was trying real hard here just to make sure I could try to get some kind of a gap, because I know our lap times among the top riders, except for Levi, are pretty close. And if I'm able to kind of stay in front by the main straight, it makes life difficult for the smaller bikes to come past me throughout the tight, twisty sections of the track. And I think in this one I push a little bit too hard, and again, leading to small mistakes that the younger riders are able to capitalise on. We've made some adjustments between races. We actually changed back to the normal components that we're using in the rear of the bike, which thankfully gave us a bit more confidence on corner exit. However, it seems to have put a lot more load on the front, and I actually started to really wear out the front tyre in this one. So had a few moments early on and decided to be err on the side of caution. You can see here young Josh Newman, who's Glenn Allerton's nephew. He started racing last year, and boy has he come a long way in such a short period of time. He's been doing lots of practicing, a lot of ride days, a lot of training, and it really, really shows. Just look at him riding through here, he's absolutely on it. Combined with that bike, he's able to just absolutely send it. And we end up going on to having some awesome battles with him. Again, people will say, you're only at the front of these races because you're on a bike that's more powerful. Yes, we are on a bike that's more powerful, but I also have to ride it. And as you can see here with Levi coming around the outside of me, they're not shy of skill or talent or motorcycle either. We make our performance in different parts in different ways, much like Fabio Quartararo on the Yamaha in MotoGP versus Pecco Bagnaia in the Ducati. They make their lap times differently. It's kind of similar here, except these riders are constantly learning and constantly figuring out ways to try to get in front of me, which I believe I've mentioned before. But you know, that partly for me, that's one of the big draws for me to come and race in this class, is to race with these young riders, because it keeps my riding up to date, and if I can help them in some small way, it's pretty awesome as well. There's Josh again, sending a really, really lovely move into turn 9. Hear me there, make a mistake on the shifting. We're using a different set of rear sets on this bike, which causes a few issues. You can see there, into the back flip-flop, there at 10 and 11. For me, that's my strongest part of the track, and as you've watched in other videos in the past, that's where I get past all kinds of people on 600s, even when I'm on a 650. And I can safely say that Josh Newman is the first person that I have not been able to pass there, or, in that, as you saw there, decided that they weren't going to let me past and were able to actually hold me off. So very well done to Josh there. I was actually quite surprised and laughing all the while down that main straight, going, holy moly, like that was very, very impressive from Josh. So well done, mate. Again, not sure how well it comes through on the audio, but I can hear Josh and the others buzzing around behind me as we're making our lap times in different areas. So I'm sitting there going, oh geez, where's the next pass coming? All while trying to focus on riding my own lap and not making too many more mistakes for them to capitalise. By this point in the day, I'd done, this is our third race in Formula St George. I'd also done 2 races in Club Sport 600 on this bike against the 600s. And going back to what I was talking about earlier with a lack of fitness, I was really starting to struggle on the bike physically. You can see there, brakes into 9, I can't hold it. And Josh was able to come past me again. However, I got a bit better exit and I held my nerve a little bit longer on the flip-flop and was able to hold Josh off. Hopefully there wasn't too much of a nose chop on Josh there, but he recovered pretty well. And this race, my lap time was all very far off. And honestly, I was doing all I could to keep these blokes behind me. I was really using my bike's performance differences to my advantage. So parking the bike mid-corner on the brakes and then just being able to use the motor off the corner, that disrupts the young blokes' riding lines and you know allows me to try to kind of stay in front. Stops them from using their corner speed, park the thing mid-corner and then just use the gas off the corner. Again though, they could see that and they started formulating plans on how to get and where to get past me, which is pretty funny. And also meanwhile, while I'm doing what I'm doing up the front here, trying to keep the lads behind me, they are having what I hear is a titanic battle, constantly swapping positions as they're trying to get past me. I could constantly hear their engine notes in my ears as I was going into the corners, so I'm just sitting there waiting for someone to come past. So not only do we have Josh Newman, we have Jai Russo, so he's Levi's brother. He's also on another beautifully prepared little Honda NSF. So he's come past me there into 9. I'm able to just, again, pip into the top section here into turns 10 and 11. Park at mid-corner to slow their mid-corner speed and then just use the torque to shoot me down the straight. Again, I could just hear the buzzing of their bikes in my slipstream, trying hard as I can to push deeper into turn 1. I was actually struggling quite a lot coming into turn 1. It really frustrated me all weekend. Having ridden the Sena Motorcycles FZR 1000, 250 k's an hour into turn 1, I thought I'd be far more confident to push deeper and harder on the SV. It just never turned out that way, and I'm unsure as to why that was the case. So hopefully we'll get some testing in with some revised parts and we'll get that confidence back to be able to push. You can see with that rear change that we made, my line's a lot better. I'm not running as wide on corner exit. The bike actually wants to finish the corner, which makes life a little bit easier for me. Unfortunately, I was that fatigued by this point, I wasn't able to take best advantage of it. Again, I can hear Jai's Moto 3 absolutely buzzing its head off behind us there into turn 9. That's kind of the way the race went. I was just able to hold Jai and Josh off as they were battling with each other, and kind of held my pace at 44s the whole way through. There's Jai being a good sport, giving us a thumbs up, same as Josh. And yeah, that was the end of day 1. Interesting day with some good racing and a bunch of laughs in the pits. Learning some things about myself and about the modified bike. We also had the 2 Club Sport 600 races, which may come in a different video. We'll see how we go. The big focus at the moment is in the Formula St George class, where we had a good bit of fun. Big congratulations to Levi. Absolutely smashed it. no one had anything to give to him. He just was in a class of his own. Also, big congrats to Josh. It's awesome to see his adjustment and level of change when it comes to his riding ability over the last 12, 18 months since he's been riding out there in St. George with us. And then I have to say a big thank you to the St. George Motorcycle Club and all the volunteers for putting on a great day's racing. Without them, especially without the volunteer marshals, racing doesn't happen. So a big shout out to them. And of course, as always, a big shout out to you, the viewer, for watching our racing. Your views, your likes and your subscribes has actually allowed us to get some more sponsorship, which will keep us riding a little bit longer this year. So again, thanks very much.